Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar this morning, going over the new collector that's available now for Android and the Trimble Mobile Manager app, and then 3D data collection. It'll be myself and Eric Bach today. I want to thank everyone for taking time to join us on the webinar. And we're going to get going here. Before we start, I just wanted to say from all of us here at NEI, from our family to yours, we hope and best wishes for everyone that you stay safe during this pandemic crisis. And we are open for business, so we're still providing support and processing orders and doing repairs and rentals. So if there's anything that we can do to assist, don't hesitate to reach out. Be happy to do whatever we can. So the presenters today are myself and Eric Bach. That's me on the right there, that handsome devil. And Eric's there taking a point with an R2. Eric is our technical support manager based out of Louisiana, and I am the mapping GIS solutions consultant here in Florida for NEI. It's just kind of a brief overview here of what we're going to go over today. We're going to go over some of the Trimble Android devices and receivers that are available that will work with this new configuration. We'll go through the new collector enhancements that have come out for Android. The Trimble Mobile Manager application. For those of you that are using Catalyst, you might be familiar with Trimble Mobile Manager, but there's been a lot of improvements here over the last with this new release. Then I'm actually going to switch over and I'm going to show my screen on my Android device and go through the settings. These settings will be specific to Florida, but they are applicable to all the states that we work in. For specific settings, I'll show some of the information for our other states, but just reach out to your local representative. They'll be happy to assist. And then I'm going to switch it over to Eric, and he's going to do the hard stuff. So he's going to be going in and showing folks how to prep your databases properly, your geodatabases for collecting high accuracy data, how to also set things up for the 3D data collection and creating arcade expressions. So this expression is specifically for displaying the MSL in the field. And then at the end, we have some current promotions that we're running right now to try to assist, some of them from Trimble, some of them from NEI, trying to assist during this time for people to be able to still be able to work and purchase equipment during some of these current freezes that a lot of folks have. So for those of you, and there's no way you were getting out of this without a sales pitch, so here it comes. But for those of you that are using iOS right now, with the new version of Collector, a lot of the enhancements are very similar to what you're used to in iOS. If you are wanting to do 3D data collection, it is the recommended way to do it now is through the Android version. The things that are in the Android with the Trimble Mobile Manager are not available in iOS at the moment. So if you're using iOS currently and you don't need to do 3D, then you're good. If you are also using iOS and you've been frustrated with some of the issues with working with an iOS device as far as battery life and screen readability in the sun and overheating and those issues. So I just wanted to go through some of the devices that are available that can work with this new configuration. So for the R1, this is just sub-meter device. You can see it's very convenient to carry around. It's a lot of my environmental customers are utilizing this. You can use an RTK network with it, but we recommend just using the satellite-based corrections for simplification purposes. This typically, a lot of my customers are getting around, in the 2-foot range for accuracy, depending upon conditions, and it is compatible with all the different operating systems as well. For those of you that need more accuracy, the R2 is one of the recommended devices. So this receiver is capable of getting up to centimeter accuracy. A lot of and that's typically folks that are trying to do vertical or just really want to have a high accurate unit. We also have decimeter accuracy available. A lot of my utility customers are utilizing that for locating and also for mapping out their systems. I didn't not mentioning sight vision in this particular presentation, but one reason why this 3D is so important is in the future, if you want to be able to locate directly from your geodatabase without having to go out and use locators and things of that nature, you can utilize your 3D data and view it with an augmented reality device and be able to see it live in the field right from your screen. So this is one reason why this 3D is becoming more and more prevalent and throughout our territory. So there are a few different Android devices for those of you that aren't familiar with them. The TDC 150, that's the all-in-one handheld. With the TDC 600 is the new platform, and then our ultra rugged model is the Nomad 5. So the TDC 150 has been just came out about a year ago. It's been very popular with a lot of folks that are using Collector for ArcGIS. It's a nice all-in-one device. You don't have to have extra poles or backpacks or anything with it. The only thing that I might say is that, similar to the way the Geo 7X was, it's kind of a snapshot in time. So, it is a one-piece device. So the internal mechanism is basically what it is for this time. So in a few years, if you wanted to upgrade, an R2 paired with another device, might be a better solution for that, just for the fact that you'll be able to, as technology improves and the microprocessors get more and more powerful, you can upgrade the devices as you go. Another advantage of the 150 is the accuracy levels for this device are pretty impressive. So there's 4 different flavors here. So and these are all upgradable too. So if any of you have a 150 or an R2 that are in a decimeter mode and you would like to be able to do this 3D vertical data collection, you can upgrade your devices to the centimeter level accuracy. One interesting thing with the 150, if you can see, the sub-meter is actually rated to 30 centimeters horizontal and vertical, which is about a foot. The decimeter unit is rated to 7 centimeters horizontal, but it's also rated to 2 centimeters vertical, which is, to me, is a nice compromise for folks that are doing stormwater assessments for culverts, inverts, where that higher level of accuracy in the vertical is important for modeling. And then of course there's the full centimeter level accuracy as well. So you can utilize the 150 in multiple ways. You can use it as just a standalone handheld device. You can mount it to a monopole and actually be able to do vertical data collection with that. Or if you want to have a full-blown rig for doing vertical and high accuracy, especially in challenging conditions, you can connect it with a Zephyr 3 antenna and mount everything to a pole. And we actually have a promotion going for that right now. So which I'll talk about later on. So if you're interested, just let us know. So the TDC 600 also, this will pair with the R1 or R2. It's a ruggedized device. It has a 6-inch screen. It's sunlight readable. The battery is swappable. Has internal storage, and you can also expand the storage as well, and has good cameras on it. It's been a lot of folks have really liked this device. It's also a nice thing with these is that they actually have mounts for the poles, so it's not just like a off-the-shelf pole mount. It's actually designed specifically for these devices. And for those of you like myself, when I'm out fishing and I have my cell phone out in the sun and it's facing up, you know, it usually dies on me because of the heat in the summertime. And so with this, you don't have to worry about that. So if you're doing a lot of data collection in a day and you need to be as efficient as possible, this is a nice option for that. And the Nomad, this is our ultra rugged device. It also has the capability to connect with modules for doing RFID scans, barcode scans. It's a 5-inch screen on it, but it's also you know, completely able to be submersed in water. Military spec ruggedness available with it. Just to give you a feel for what they look like in person here. So you can see the Nomad's a bit more bulky. But that's due to the extended rugged durability it provides. And the 600 there is more kind of like a ruggedized, like a giant Samsung Galaxy, you know, that's been ruggedized, but it's 6-inch screen, which is a pretty good size screen with a lot of real estate. And like I mentioned too, the batteries are hot swappable, or they're swappable. But they also have the extended life on them as well. So for those of you that are out in the field all day long and you don't want to have to mess with, you know, charging all the time or dealing with an off-the-shelf device, there are options available. A lot of what I usually tell my customers is, you know, the option here is if you have, you know, an off-the-shelf device and you drop it and you break it, you throw it in the garbage and you buy a new one, right? With these, you know, this gives you the option to have something that is designed to be worked in the field, can withstand a drop. And if something goes wrong with it, you know, and it's still covered under its maintenance, you know, we'll repair it or replace it and get you a new one. So on to new collector. Like I said, for a lot of you that have looked at this in iOS or you've looked at the beta version, a lot of this will be familiar to you. There are a few, and what Eric's portion is probably what will be the most, the newest thing that's available now. But for those of you that are using a TDC 150 now, or you're using an Android device, so if you're using Classic, that you will still be using the Space app on the 150 and the GNSS Status app. But for those of you that are going to be moving to the new version of Collector, going forward, it will be the Trimble Mobile Manager application. Now you can see the two symbols down there. Like on mine, actually the old one still says Collector just because I already had it downloaded on my device, so you might notice that. But the new one is the one with the little swishy arrow there. So what's in this now? So a lot of the improvements, you know, a lot of this was built around working better with Arc Pro and being able to have that constant connection. One thing that I have been really impressed with is the way that you can, when you publish data out of Arc Pro and it goes into ArcGIS Online and then eventually to your field workers and collector, that string stays attached. So I didn't even realize that was happening at first, and I was collecting data, and then I went back into Arc Pro, and the data that I collected in the field was actually being populated back in the office in Pro. So that's a nice improvement right off the bat to be able to have that connection retained, you know, throughout the workflow. Another nice thing is now you can send out, like, especially some of that more rich symbology that you can create in Pro, you can send that directly out to it goes to ArcGIS Online and then out to the applications to collector as well. You can use arcade expressions to create labels in the field to show. You can do heat maps. You can send out vector base maps. So the experience in general is much more user friendly and much better, frankly, and be able to the scaling factor I found is much better. Instead of just like tiny dots and lines, you've actually got some decent symbology that scales pretty well. Another nice thing kind of goes into what I was saying, but the user experience is definitely much better. So you can, when you zoom way in, you can actually have crosshairs now where you can kind of define your location better. Being able to have that slider bar where you don't have to choose between the map screen and the attribution screen, you can actually, they're both available to you. And just an example here, and this is a little familiar here from iOS as well, but you've got better access to your photos, any other attachments you want to get to. When you select something, it doesn't flip you to another screen. You stay in there, and you can change your location, change the attribution right on there. And this is something that Eric will be talking about later in a very specific form of this, but this is also a new feature available. You'll be able to design your own pop-ups for folks in the field. You can use this to do labeling. You can use it to take information from your attributes and create visual representations in the field for this. And you can actually choose what types of attributes you want to show and to make them available. So the customization factor here has gone up exponentially, obviously. So just another way to kind of increase the user experience in general. This is a nice feature now too. So you can actually select a point on your map that you're trying to locate, and it'll utilize the internal compass on your device, and you'll be able to navigate to that feature in the field. Much better than just kind of walking around and seeing, okay, it's over here somewhere. It actually will give you guidance and direction. And then another big thing, like I mentioned with Arc Pro, that the offline workflow is definitely improved. So what you'll be able to do now, folks in the field can still choose areas that they want to download, work areas, but you can also create work areas for them, name them, and have them available to them so they can choose. They don't have to delineate them in the field. They can just pick maps that you've already pre-created for them. You can use vector maps as background maps as well. And then another thing is that they can choose, if they're in a poor environment, to just store on the device and then sync when they're available. Instead of it constantly trying to auto sync, you can actually turn that on and off now. So what I'm going to get into too is setting up the location profiles for these RTK settings. They're a little bit more advanced now than they were previously. And I'm going to go through what it is specifically for Florida on the demonstration, but it also is relevant to our other states. Just some of the settings are a bit different, but most of it is the same. And for those of you using VRS now as well, a lot of these settings will be the same. Just kind of an overview of what a lot of the folks in our territory are utilizing for their correction sources. I'm not going to get into what RTK corrections are at this point, but it's a network of base stations that you can access in order to get down to 1 or 2 centimeters of accuracy. We have all this information documented as well. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to myself or to your local representative, and we'll make sure we get you all the information for setting it up specifically for your area as well. So Trimble Mobile Manager. So for those of you that have used Catalyst in the past, you're familiar with Mobile Manager, but it's definitely much more advanced at this point. I'm going to show this here in just a second, and fingers crossed. Every time I practice this, it went great. So we're going to see. I'm hoping it's going to keep doing that for me. But you can go ahead and download it in the Play Store right now. It's designed to work with the Trimble R series, the 150 Catalyst. It works directly with collectors. So this is you configure it and you can set it aside. Basically, it's not something you have to go in and reconfigure all the time. And then what it's capable of doing also is an on-the-fly translation from the height above ellipsoid to an orthometric height. And just a kind of a brief explanation of what this is. So the satellites are basically, if you see that the bottom layer there, the ellipsoid, that's an ellipsoid and a geoid are just representations of the Earth's surface. An ellipsoid is a very simplified representation that's not specific to a certain area. It's good for the whole Earth, and which is something that, with satellites, they're constantly in orbit, so they can't constantly recalculate based upon where they are. So this is kind of the universal way for them to display height. So it's a difference between what that geoid height is set at and what you are recording from the satellites in the field. So by using a geoid model, and by the way, Geoid 18 is now available, and that is the model that everyone should be using at this point. If you're still using Geoid 12, Geoid 18 and the only difference here is that it's a better representation of the Earth. It's not going to change how your data is stored or collected or compared with previous data. It's just a better representation of the Earth. And then what you're going to be doing is, instead of taking it off that height above ellipsoid, you're going to be taking the orthometric height will be calculated from the difference between where you are and the geoid model. And then it'll be projected in something that you can understand, which is readable to everybody, which is mean sea level and how your relevance to mean sea level. So I hope I didn't confuse. If there is a nice article on this, if anybody wants to read it, I'd be happy to forward that along to you as well. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a shot. We'll see how it goes. So if you are just using satellite-based corrections, this is the settings right here. There's not a lot to it. In order for you to be able to utilize the default profile and location profile in Collector, you would just set it like this, and then you'll be able to continue using the default profile as you would as you have in the past, basically. So I'm going to try and connect here to my phone real quick. And see how that goes. We're going to try one other thing here. And I had a feeling this is what was going to happen, so I'm prepared. Let's try this one more time. There we go. Okay. So here's the new, like I said, you can download this from the Play Store right now. So I'm going to open up Trimble Mobile Manager. So if you don't have a Trimble ID, you can actually create it in the app, or you can go online and create your own Trimble ID. It's free to do. It only takes a second, then you just verify it through your email. So here's the new menu for it here. So what we're going to be configuring, basically, first we're going to find our position source. So I've already got this I have my R2 outside right now in the rain, and I've already got it connected up here. So you would just scan your Bluetooth, select it from the list. You can choose the Catalyst, R series. Now, if you're using the TDC 150, this is all would be an integrated receiver. So you wouldn't have to do any of this portion as well. And then once I got it, I'll just go ahead and go into my GNSS configuration here. So I've already kind of configured this. So when you go in, and we have all this documented too. So I'm going to select the custom local NTRIP protocol, which is what you use for our networks. And I know in Alabama, there's, you're connecting directly to individual base stations. So it's a little bit different from state to state, but for most of our states, the NTRIP protocol is correct. Then you enter in your URL, enter in your port. And if you've done all that correctly, when you select, you should be able to select your mount point. I will say that one of the other ones that I will use is the MSM4 near, because the MSM4 language is capable of utilizing Galileo constellation as well. Not all the base stations have the Galileo constellation, so if you want to, the two that I recommend is the RTCM3 BRS or the MSM4 near. If you know that your local base station has got the capability of Galileo, then you probably want to use that as well if you can. So our source reference frame. So if you scroll through, there's one issue here that I want to talk about. If you don't see the geoid, give me just a second. So I'm sorry, when you get to NAT 80, you just want to select NAT 83 2011. I misspoke here. And then you're going to go ahead and put in your password. And then you want to keep this as same as source. Transformation off. You don't want to do the transformation here because you're going to be doing the transformation inside the collector app. And then if you don't see Geoid 18 available here, like on my device, I only saw Geoid 12. If you're not doing vertical, it doesn't matter. But if you are doing vertical, you're going to want to you may have to download this. So this is a fairly simple thing to do. Just go on to Google here and type in Geoid 18 Trimble, and it'll bring you up to that GGF DocuShare. Click on it. And scroll down to Geoid 18. And this is all documented as well. So, and you can download Geoid 18 CONUS down there at the bottom. And then once you do, you're going to want to go into the program that controls your files. So this could be File Manager. This could be, it varies by device. And then what you want to do is go to your internal storage, go to your download, and then you can either copy it or you can select it. You can select it and copy it, or you can select it and then go back one and then go to this geodata folder and then paste it here, or as in like with the TDC 150, it's a copy to this location. So it's already selected. So once you've got that in there, it'll show up and you'll have to restart Mobile Manager, but it'll show up in your list, okay? So once we've got all that connected, I'm gonna go home and we're gonna go ahead, make sure we've got everything ready, and then we're gonna connect. And so fingers crossed, I don't need to go outside and reset. Oh, thank God. So right now we're just getting the SBAS corrections. Just going to make sure, as you can see right now, so you can see the orthometric height is being displayed currently. And we want to make sure we're getting the corrections from there we go. So now I'm on RTK float and should switch to fixed, and there we go. So now we're locked in. So once I ensure that everything's working in here, just go ahead and shut this off. And then we're going to shut down Trimble Mobile Manager altogether. We're going to go into Collector now. And then you'll notice it'll do a quick sign in to Trimble Mobile Manager once it opens up. And then we're going to go in back to the profile section here. And we're going to select, I've got my R2 will be available here once it reads the Trimble Mobile Manager. It'll find it, and we've got that connected. I'm going to go ahead and set up a location profile, and once you do this, you're done. So I'm going to create a new profile. I'm going to search here for 2011, So I'm going to want the 6318 at the bottom here, or at right here. And then I want the NAD 83. I'm going to check my notes to make sure I'm doing this right. And then we're going to go in, and then a little trick here is you punch in web, and then you'll get this web Mercator auxiliary sphere. Do not select the just web Mercator. You need the auxiliary sphere 3857. And then we're going to go to next. You can press the location button and it'll take you to where you're at. So that's me in Crystal Beach. And then I want to select the top one, the ITRF 08. I want to make sure I've got the right one. And next, and then I'm just going to call this FDOT. So that's the network here. Add. And then we're going to select it. So we made it current. Now I'm going to go into my map. And we're all connected, right? So here we are. We've got everything in here. And I'm going to go ahead and collect a point right here. So now you can see, and Eric's going to show you how to do this, but you've got your height above ellipsoid, your MSL in feet and meters, and all of your GNSS metadata is available to you now. Now, Eric will go over this mean sea level as well. And now you've got that, you're good to go, and he'll be able to see this in ArcGIS Online as well. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back out of this. And like I said, we have this all documented and available. So that leads me to Eric's portion. This is the real meat of the presentation, truthfully. So I will let him take it away from here. So this new version of Collector, only available, in Android now, is got the capability to take a 3D feature class and assign the Z value in the geometry. And then there's ways that you can also populate an attribute field as well if you want. But I will let Eric take it from here, sir. And would you like me to do the slides for you, or would you like me to hand it over to you?
Yeah, you can switch it over because I'll show some stuff at the end.
Okay.
All right, you guys good to go? You can see the screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Aaron, and appreciate everybody taking the time out today to watch our webinar here. So I think Aaron actually did the hard part. I think mine's the easier part, but we'll see how this goes. So in order to do 3D data collection with this new version of Collector, here are a few things you need to have set up. The first thing is make sure you have the current version of Collector for ArcGIS Android loaded. This is build 20.1.0. The next thing we need is a 3D enabled feature class. Along with that, we'll need to add the GNSS metadata attributes. As Aaron mentioned and went over with Trimble Mobile Manager, that is version 2.3, and I'm running the current geoid model. He said 18. And then at the end here, you can set up the arcade expressions, and you could go a step further and do a geoprocessing model to populate an attribute table. I'll kind of go through all this stuff individually here through the slides. All right, let's see. Here we go. Sorry about that. Okay, so the 3D feature class, there's a couple ways to do this. If you're creating a new feature class in desktop, you would go into Arc Catalog, you have your geodatabase, and you just right-click and add a new feature class. With desktop, you need to make sure you check the box for Z values. In ArcGIS Pro, the checkbox is pretty much automatic for the Z values. Now, a lot of you may already have existing 2D feature classes out there. So you have a couple of options here. One is you can go out and download these tools from GitHub and use the Recreate Geometry tool. Once you would run that, you would then run the Add XY tool, and it would add in a Z value. So I have a couple screenshots right there. The second option is you can just create a new 3D feature class like I showed in the previous slide. Then you can import your attributes from your 2D feature class. And then after that, you can load in that existing data. There's probably a handful of other ways to do this, but these are two options that we thought would be pretty good. All right, then moving on to the metadata for the GNSS metadata. There's three ways that you can do this. If you build templates in ArcGIS Online, there is a checkbox when you create that feature layer at the bottom that says Capture GPS Information. If you're using ArcGIS Pro 2.2 or later, there's a tool, you just type in GPS, add GPS metadata, or just type in the word GPS in the toolbox, and you'll see the Add GPS Metadata tool pop up. And in an ArcMap, you can also download some tools from GitHub to calculate those fields for you. This is a screenshot of which features or attributes are actually written when you run those tools. So you can see there's a handful here. There's a couple that have included domains. That is all built when you run that tool. I take it a step further and I add in a mean sea level attribute with a double field to calculate mean sea level instead of just leave it in the altitude. Some of y'all may have different attributes for that vertical that you want to capture. You can just keep that as well. That's just how I do it. Some general things with the GNSS metadata. Now I grabbed this screenshot from when Aaron and I did our iOS version of Collector, I think a year ago. But there's kind of two parts to this. There's the general data that's collected for both single point and average point. Now average point is not yet available on the Android version, but it is coming. That's why I have that little asterisk there. But if you do log data, and right now you're only going to be able to log a single GNSS point, it'll log all the metadata that you see underneath those bullet points. Whenever average GNSS becomes available, you'll see that it'll log the general stuff and only the stuff under that bullet point. Okay, so Aaron did a great job going over how to set up the GNSS configuration inside of Trimble Mobile Manager. I just wanted to point out here that if you want to do that vertical, make sure, like Aaron said, go set up the geoid. We're running 18 right now, and then verify that it's working. I do want to point out here in the app, I'm pretty much at mean sea level here in New Orleans. I'm at 1 foot in my yard with my control point, and you can see here when I was set up on it, my elevation is 7.58. That is because I'm not able to input my antenna height in the app here. That's something that's done in Collector. When Aaron went and set up the profile for the R2, there's a spot to put that antenna height. So I just want to point out, don't be afraid that, or don't be worried that this number may not look right here. Just it's not adding in the antenna height. Okay, so the next spot, so Aaron had that screenshot up where he reviewed his point and you saw mean sea level in meters, you saw mean sea level in feet, and then you also saw HAE. That was all some arcade expressions that were put into the software. This is done I did this in ArcGIS Online, so I just opened up my web map and then right-clicked. I clicked on the three dots in my feature layer under MSL point here on the left, and then I go down to the Configure Pop-Up button, and it brings up this next screen here with the Configure Pop-Up. From there, you just go down to Attribute Expression, and you click on Add. And you can see I already have my 3 in the list here, but if we pop over to the next little box up at the top right, I have mean sea level. And you basically type in, so in this box up here at the top, I have typed in this geometry $feature.z. And to get feet, I then did the the metric conversion here, feet to meters. So I added 3.2808, and that's what Aaron was able to see in his collector app. That was one of the pop-ups configured. So the second one I put in here was just MSL in meters, just so you could see how that works. And then I put in HAE as well. And I want to point out that right now, when you're viewing the GPS information in collector, it'll show the information coming from Trimble Mobile Manager, as it is just kind of a visual label there in that screen. And it also shows HAE. Now, when we ran those GPS metadata, the one for altitude is stored as this Esri GNSS altitude. That's going to store height above ellipsoid. So even though we have it set up to display mean sea level, it's still stored the attribute and altitude as height above ellipsoid. The geometry of the feature is stored in mean sea level meters. That's why I'm going to show you this next tool here, where now I just have, this is just a screenshot of my attribute table in ArcGIS Pro, and there's that altitude field that I was talking about. If you just run a simple calculate geometry, that's just right click on the attribute, calculate geometry, it'll populate altitude with mean sea level, but it'll be in meters. So I kind of took this a step further and just wrote a little model that just says, all right, I have a new field called mean sea level. I run a model on that calculates the geometry, then it runs the feet to meter to, or meter to feet conversion. And I added a couple things in there, so when I run the tool, it only populates any attribute where my mean sea level is a null, so there's no data in there. What I can do here is just pop out of the screen, and we'll bring up Pro so you can kind of see how this looks. So let me bring up Pro right here. So this is the map that Aaron and I were working on. Here's our altitude field, and then here's our mean sea level field. And I have the null here. So I collected a point earlier, and I imagine if I refresh here, if Aaron collected a point, I think he collected one and he put the attribute of high in there or something. Yeah, that's this one right here. So if I run my tool now, this model, and I had it originally set up to just run without any parameters, but we've been giving this out to some of our customers, and they may have their own, you know, instead of mean sea level, they may have their own wording for their attributes. So we have it set up to where they can kind of configure this. So if I run this, it just goes through, it selects anything that has a null value, and then it runs the recalculate geometry and then the math to do meter to feet conversion, and then it'll populate my mean sea level. So now that the model's done, if I just refresh my attribute table here, it'll populate. And that will also populate back. I'm actually doing this on the feature service from ArcGIS Online. So it will populate back to, here's mine. I don't know why I didn't do Aaron's. But it ran mine. Mine's sitting on the roof, the flat roof of my house here. It's at 10 feet. You can see my other ones down here, or my 1 foot. That's my control point. I will bring up ArcGIS Online as well right here. So what Aaron showed, when we did the configure pop-up, and I'll show you the screen here. So this is my web map in ArcGIS Online, configure pop-up. You'll see here is where I added in those expressions. Once you add the expressions in, I do want to note that they pop up in the display field, but they show up at the bottom. So I recommend you highlight all three of them and you use these arrows and you kind of move them up so you can see. Now, we have this data. Now, when I click on info, there's this arcade expression is not quite available yet in this version of my web map viewer. You can see here they displayed as 0, even though when Aaron clicked on them in collector, they were right. So if you actually go and open your web map in the beta version, which will pop up right here, if you just click open map viewer, open in beta, so this will be coming out shortly. If I click on info now, you'll see the arcade expressions are going to pop up like they should here. So there's the mean sea level and all that. So that's why I'm actually running the attribute on the back end, is because if we wanted to see it in the table field, instead of it having it all zeros in the other version of my collector map here, I'm able to actually see it. So that's kind of the gist of setting up everything inside of ArcGIS Online. There's probably other ways that you can configure the arcade expressions. As Aaron has mentioned earlier, we do have all this documented. I have a couple videos here. I have one of the R2 that kind of goes into an in-depth of setting everything up from beginning to end with the arcade expressions. I have another one here set up. I think this one is for the TDC 150. It also shows, the TDC 150. It also shows the side loading of the geoid model if it doesn't show up in the list. We have all kinds of other things here. Some other interesting ones. I'll be doing a video using the R2 to log a static session. So I like to set control points as a test to make sure my settings are correct. If you have an R2 and you're running on Android, you can use the Trimble DL app to log a static session. So I'll show how I did that to log my control point in the yard. But we have all kind of other videos in here as well. And then Aaron mentioned a good article. He had his little screenshot of his elevation stuff. And when he explained that, Matt Morris and some of the Trimble team here, they have this mapping and GIS community. And there's a whole section that Matt wrote up on the elevation concept. So that's what kind of, I think, what Aaron was referencing. Matt also goes into a 4-part series that basically talked about the whole, basically the whole workflow Aaron and I went through today. So we have it in video. Aaron and I have it documented in text, and then there's a bunch of stuff here on the website. So, Aaron, that's kind of all I have right now. I'll flip it back to you, and we can finish up with the last couple slides.
All right, thanks, Eric. I appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and change it back to myself. And go back into here. So as I mentioned before, there are a few, there's a few promotions that are running currently. That this is something directly from Trimble for all of customers everywhere, basically, is that during this pandemic, there's a lot of folks that have purchase freezes. So in order to kind of take some of that issue away, they're deferring payments for 3 months and then 0% interest for 21 months or 2 years with 0% interest for purchases over $5,000. So that's one thing that's going on right now on the financing side. Currently, NEI is running a promotion with our customers for hardware, software, and firmware. So if your equipment or software is out of warranty, you can, or maintenance, you can, and this for the mapping side, this applies to the TerraSync, Pathfinder and positions, and to the R2, and then a whole host of devices on the survey side as well. So if you're not up to date, you can become up to date without having to pay for that update price. You're basically just renew your maintenances right now. So that's another thing that we're trying to work with. And then, of course, this kind of leads right into what we talked about today. So this is an excellent vertical data collection package here. So for our priority support customers, we're offering that, and if you're not a priority support customer, you can become one with this purchase. So we're offering basically a free Zephyr 3 antenna to go along with a TDC 150. So you can have a full 3D workstation here set up for under $9,000. Basically, you'll be able to collect high accuracy vertical data out in the field. So So I'm going to move over now into the Q&A here. This is my contact info. If anybody has anything that they want to see further, or if you want contact information for folks in your area, feel free to reach out to me. I have a couple of questions. Excuse me. Let me see if I can figure out how to use this thing. Here we go. Okay, so one of the questions was probably asked early on, is Trimble Mobile Manager available in iOS? And I think we went through that, but it is not currently. It was designed specifically for Android and for Catalyst originally, which runs only on Android. I'm not sure if it's planned for the future. I'm sure that's something that they're working on, because currently you don't need a third-party app with a new version of Collector in iOS, but you don't get a lot of these same features from it. So that is to be determined.
So Aaron, I'll hop in there. It's in beta right now. It's in beta right now. Well, okay. It's almost in beta. So it's getting close. But they haven't given us a timeline, but it's being worked on.
And then someone else asked, is snapping available in the new version of Android here? So that's something I didn't touch on. Is there was a few things that have not transferred over yet that are still in development. So in addition to snapping, they didn't mention snapping specifically, but I do not see the snapping option like I saw in iOS. The other thing is the GPS averaging is not transferred over as of yet. So it's all just one position per point, which is okay. There's no reason why you can't do that. I know a lot of folks like to average 5 to 10 positions, which is always a good practice, but as long as you're fixed properly, you should be fine. Then the only other thing too that I saw is the 95% confidence level for data collection is not available yet as well. But I know that those are planned. There's an article by Jeff Shaner that I got a lot of my information from about this for this webinar online that'll kind of go through the new release and what they're still working on. Let me see.
I got one, Aaron.
Okay.
So someone asked, can MSL be calculated via collecting with iOS with the tool that I wrote that I showed on the WebEx here? So that tool is specific on the feature service from ArcGIS Online. So that tool, no. But I do have a tool that we wrote using a series of recreate and project Z and some other things that we can calculate iOS and mean sea level, but it's done on the back end in ArcGIS Pro. It's not done on the fly like I showed here. So yeah, we do have a tool that can do that.
One more question I have is, are there any issues with 3D data going into a client's database that might have an older version of ArcGIS and not on ArcGIS Pro? So I think you've spent a lot of time on Pro, Eric, but the tool that you have, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it will, when it calculates the Z field in the geometry, it's in, it's in NAVD 88 relative to mean sea level in meters. So that will populate regardless of whether it's in Pro or desktop or whatever you're in. But in order to run the tool that you have set up, though, Eric, is a tool that runs in Pro. If that's for calculating that attribute field in survey feet. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the one I showed today was Pro, but I do have one that I wrote for desktop as well. So
okay.
Yeah. Each case would be, we would just we could reach out and help with that person. But yeah, if y'all have any questions, we can definitely sit down and help do those things if that's what's needed. Even the arcade expressions, if you need to set that up, yeah, we can help out as needed.
Another question: do you see a shift from iOS to Android? Oh darn this! There we go. being a Trimble initiative, and will Trimble be able to keep up with the rate at which Android OS versions roll out? One thing I can say is it's much easier for them to program for Android than it is for iOS, just because of, it's a much more open source platform. And they will, they keep up to date with the new versions that come out. The Trimble specific equipment like the TDC 600 and the Nomad, they're an Android 8. I don't know the actual one, but they are available to upgrade. But so they will, they'll always be, regardless of the device, if it's a Trimble device specifically, it will always be compatible with the Trimble software. So do you have anything to comment on that about it, Eric, as well? I mean, iOS is iOS, and it's, it changes rapidly as well. So it's it's just a kind of a, here's one strange instance. There's not a lot of our customers are on Windows 10, but there was a Windows 10 update that came out, and people were running it, and everything stopped working for their GPS equipment. And we got a whole bunch of phone calls and had to do some digging, and found out that there was a new update that they weren't prepared for that changed the way it read certain things. So it's, it is what it is. They try to anticipate all this and keep up with it. And they're playing catch up a lot of times, but typically the idea is to try to stay ahead of it as much as possible. So, you can feel confident with a nice Android device that you should be good to go for quite some time, I think. So.
Yeah, all I would add is on the iOS stuff is just Trimble recently came out with new firmware updates for the R1 and the R2 that make connection to iOS a lot easier, where you just connect once and it'll reconnect even if you power it off. So I would just say make sure you're up to date on firmware for that.
Another question is, the TDC is in Android 6. Is it able to be upgraded? The answer is no. It is Android 6 device, but the idea here is that all of the software that's running and the applications from Esri are to maintain and be compatible with that device as far as during its lifespan. So that is the way that it's being treated, but that is, like I said before, it's kind of a snapshot in time. So that's where the R1 and the R2 are a bit more future-proof maybe, but the convenience of the all-in-one and the price point is also a nice factor for the 150. So I think that's all the questions I have. I think we're getting right to the end here, and so I'm gonna go ahead and sign off now. And like I said, if anybody has any further questions, feel free to reach out to myself, and if I can't answer them, we'll point you in the right direction. And just want to say thank you to everyone for joining us today, and I hope everybody stays safe and healthy, and their families as well. And we look forward to hearing from you all in the future. All right, have a great day. Thank you very much.